All right, get ready, because today we're diving into a world where things are big and, I mean, massive machinery, industrial equipment, even ships and aircraft.
We're talking about becoming an import-export manager in one of the most fascinating fields out there.
Definitely not for the faint of heart, that's for sure.
If you're interested in this kind of role, chances are you don't shy away from a challenge.
And you like thinking on a global scale.
What really gets me excited about this field is that it goes way beyond just logistics.
Yeah, it's not just about moving boxes, is it?
It's about understanding the intricate dance of global trade, navigating the complexities of international regulations.
And don't forget the art of cross-cultural communication.
Absolutely.
Now, our source material keeps mentioning this phrase, installing and maintaining procedures for cross-border business. And honestly, it sounds a bit vague to me.
Yeah, can you break that down for us?
What does that actually look like in practice?
Sure, think of it like building the operating system for a well-oiled global trading machine.
Okay, I like where you're going with this.
It's about creating a system that's meticulous, repeatable, ensuring that every shipment, no matter how massive, reaches its destination without a hitch.
So it's about sweating the small stuff so the big stuff goes smoothly.
You got it.
Interesting.
One day you might be wrestling with customs forms. The next you're deciphering HS codes. You know, those super specific codes that classify goods for tariffs.
Wait, HS codes, now you're speaking my language. Tell me more about those.
Okay, imagine you're shipping a giant wind turbine, let's say, to Brazil.
Oh, okay.
Each part of that turbine, the blades, the tower sections, the generator, each one has its own unique HS code.
Wow, that's granular.
And that code determines the tariff rate Brazil's going to charge on it.
So those codes are important.
You get the code wrong, even
Yep.
by a single digit, and you're looking at costly delays, maybe even fines.
That's way more interesting than I thought those codes would be. Sounds like a recipe for disaster if you're not on top of your game.
It's a constant learning curve, that's for sure.
Wow, so you're telling me there's more to it than just those codes?
Oh, there's so much more.
What else is there?
While you're figuring out those HS codes, you're also analyzing global market trends, negotiating deals with suppliers on different continents.
It sounds like you need to be a master of multitasking.
Multitasking, and maybe brushing up on your Portuguese for that wind turbine project in Brazil.
Wow, it sounds like it's not just about knowing the rules of the game.
Right.
You've got to understand the players. The playing field?
Absolutely.
Maybe even predict the weather in a different hemisphere.
That's a great way to put it, actually.
Wow.
And that's why our source material highlights some pretty unexpected skills as crucial for success in this role.
Like what?
Things like social perceptiveness
Okay.
and persuasion.
Hold on, you're telling me that being a people person is just as important as knowing the ins and outs of, say, Incoterms?
Now, Incoterms, that's a whole other ballgame.
Tell me more about Incoterms.
Incoterms, short for international commercial terms, are essentially the rules of the road for global shipping.
Okay.
They determine who's responsible for what and when throughout the entire journey of a shipment.
Got it.
But here's the catch. Even with crystal clear Incoterms, things can still get messy.
Oh, I bet. Let me guess. A typhoon in the Pacific. A dock worker strike in Italy. Or maybe that volcano in Iceland acting up again.
You're getting it.
It sounds like anything can happen.
And that's where those people skills become absolutely crucial.
So how do people's skills come into play when a volcano erupts?
You're dealing with suppliers, freight forwarders, customs officials, a whole cast of characters,
Right.
each with their own priorities, their own ways of doing business.
Right.
And when things go sideways, which they inevitably do, being able to understand their perspectives, build that rapport, maybe even influence their decisions, that's invaluable.
So it's like being a diplomat as much as a logistics expert.
100%. And that's especially true when you factor in cultural nuances. What flies in one country might be a major faux pas in another.
It's starting to sound less like a job description and more like a crash course in international relations.
You know, that's a great way to think about it.
Wow.
It's a dynamic field.
Right.
Requires you to be constantly learning, constantly adapting.
Absolutely. Speaking of which, let's talk about the career path itself. The source material, which, by the way, comes from RoleCatcher,
Oh, I love RoleCatcher.
they lay out a pretty clear trajectory.
Yeah, they do.
From entry-level import-export coordinator all the way up to import-export manager.
Nice, steady climb.
Yeah. So tell me, if you're just starting out, what can you expect at that entry level?
Think of it like boot camp.
Boot camp.
You're learning the nuts and bolts,
Yeah.
assisting with documentation,
Okay.
making sure you're complying with all those mind-boggling regulations.
That's a lot of attention to detail.
You got it.
Yeah.
Dotting those I's, crossing those T's, and of course, coordinating with all the different parties involved.
Sounds like a lot to juggle.
It definitely keeps you on your toes.
So at this stage, you're really building that solid foundation in the technical aspects of import to export.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
You're learning the ropes, proving you can be reliable, showing you can handle the pressure when those deadlines are looming.
Because I imagine those deadlines can be pretty intense in a field where things are literally in constant motion.
Oh, yeah.
So you've mastered the basics, you've got a few successful shipments under your belt.
Yes.
What does that path to becoming an import-export specialist look like?
That's where things get really exciting.
How so?
You transition from assisting to managing.
Oh, okay.
You start taking ownership of entire import and export operations.
So it's more strategic thinking, bigger picture stuff.
Exactly. You might be developing strategies to optimize efficiency, finding ways to trim costs without sacrificing speed or reliability.
Okay.
And this is your chance to really make your mark on the company, to really shine.
I bet. Does our source material give us any examples of what a rockstar import-export specialist looks like?
They do. One profile that stood out to me, they had a master's in international business, certifications in supply chain management, and a proven track record of boosting efficiency and cutting costs.
Wow, talk about checking all the boxes.
They've not only expanded their knowledge base, but also gained that practical experience.
So they can really demonstrate their value.
Exactly, and prepare themselves for that next level.
Which leads us to the big leagues, the coveted role of import-export manager.
Dun, dun, dun.
This seems like the culmination of everything we've talked about. The expertise, the experience, that perfect blend.
It really is.
What really sets this role apart from the rest?
You know, it's funny. We talk about this import-export manager, right?
Right.
And we always talk about him like they're this master conductor,
Okay.
orchestrating this whole complex symphony of moving parts.
Right, right.
From the logistics, the transportation, compliance, regulations.
I like that analogy, though.
Yeah,
It really captures the sort of multifaceted nature of the role.
right. But the best conductors, they don't just wave their baton and hope for the best, do they?
Right. They've got to know the music.
They understand the nuances of each instrument.
Right.
They know how to draw out the strengths of each individual musician and then mold them into this cohesive, high-performing unit.
So it's not just about managing things then, is it?
Right.
It's about leading people, which is a whole other skill set.
Exactly. And at this level, leadership, delegation,
Right.
just as important as that technical expertise.
Oh, absolutely.
You're not just responsible for your own performance anymore.
Right.
You're responsible for guiding and mentoring a whole team of specialists, coordinators,
Yeah.
each with their own areas of expertise.
That sounds like a delicate balance to strike.
Oh, it is.
Nurturing individual talents while keeping everyone aligned with the company's broader goals.
It definitely keeps you on your toes.
Yeah.
And speaking of broader goals, that strategic element of this role, it really gets amplified at the manager level.
So you're not just thinking about getting a shipment from point A to point B on time and within budget?
Well, that's still important, obviously.
Right.
But at this stage, you're thinking bigger picture, longer term.
Okay.
You're analyzing those market trends, anticipating shifts in supply and demand, identifying new business opportunities.
So you're not just playing the game, you're trying to stay a few steps ahead.
Exactly.
Wow.
You're asking yourself, how can we optimize our supply chain? Maybe gain a competitive edge?
Yeah.
What new markets are emerging that we could tap into? How can we mitigate risks in this increasingly volatile global landscape?
Those are some high stakes questions.
Well, they are, but the rewards,
Yeah.
they can be significant for the company and for you personally.
Speaking of which, the source material mentions that import-export managers can command some pretty impressive salaries.
Oh, absolutely. The earning potential in this field, it's a major draw for many people,
Sure.
but it's not just about the money, is it? The work itself.
Right.
It's incredibly dynamic. It's intellectually stimulating.
Right.
You're constantly learning. You're problem solving. You're interacting with people from all over the world.
It sounds like a dream job for anyone with a serious case of wanderlust.
It definitely satisfies that itch.
Okay.
And, you know, RoleCatcher, they go beyond just listing those job duties and salaries.
Yeah.
They provide some really insightful examples of successful import-export managers.
Okay. Give us the inside scoop.
Real people who are thriving in this field.
I like it.
One profile that really stood out to me, it was this incredible woman who started her career as an intern at this tiny little freight forwarding company.
Oh, wow.
Worked her way up through the ranks, learned every single aspect of the business from the ground up.
Talk about a go-getter.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Landed a job at a multinational corporation. Quickly rose through the ranks there, too.
What do you think it was about her?
Well, she had that deep knowledge of the industry, obviously,
Okay.
sharp business acumen,
Right.
and she had this incredible knack for building relationships with people from all walks of life.
So it's not just what you know, right?
Right.
It's who you know.
Yeah.
That networking piece is crucial.
Makes a world of difference.
Okay.
She always emphasized the importance of attending those industry events,
Okay.
connecting with people on LinkedIn,
Right.
really putting herself out there,
Yeah.
building that strong professional network.
So she was a master of using all the tools available to her.
She was.
Which is something that RoleCatcher emphasizes as well.
Exactly.
I love that.
And speaking of tools, RoleCatcher offers some pretty amazing resources for anybody who's serious about this career path.
Yeah. Like what?
We've talked about their AI-powered interview practice, right?
Yes.
So valuable for honing those communication skills.
Absolutely. And what about that RoleCatcher.capture plugin?
Oh, that plugin.
Makes it so easy to save job postings from multiple platforms.
Game changer, especially when you're actively job hunting.
Right, because nobody's got time to be
Right.
endlessly scrolling through job boards or juggling all those browser tabs.
Nobody.
This is like having a personal assistant for your job search.
It really is. And their CV resume builder, another fantastic tool,
Oh, tell me more.
helps you tailor your resume to each specific job description.
Okay.
Highlight those skills and experiences that are most relevant to the hiring manager.
So much smarter than just sending out a generic resume and hoping for the best.
Oh, a million times.
Right.
You know, one of the things I appreciate about RoleCatcher, they don't just stop at the technical aspects of the job search.
Okay.
They give you valuable advice on how to stay ahead of the curve in this constantly evolving field.
That's huge because, let's face it, the world of import-export,
Oh my gosh.
it is in a constant state of flux. New technologies, changing regulations, those global trade patterns shifting all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, it sounds like you really do need to be constantly learning to stay on top of things.
You do.
So RoleCatcher emphasizes that continuous learning aspect.
They do.
What are some of their recommendations for staying in the loop?
Well, they recommend subscribing to those industry publications,
Okay.
joining professional organizations,
Yeah. Okay.
even attending those webinars and conferences.
So those are all great resources, but what about something a little less obvious? You know, for someone who really wants to stand out from the crowd. Less obvious, huh? Okay, I'm all ears. Give me those insider tips.
One thing I've noticed successful import-export managers do, they make a point of building relationships with people outside their immediate industry bubble.
Outside their bubble. Interesting.
Think about it, though. The world of import-export. It's so intertwined with economics, with politics, even cultural studies.
So like reading a book by a foreign policy expert
Yeah.
or attending a lecture on global supply chains that could actually give me an edge in this field.
Absolutely. The more you understand those forces shaping global trade, better equipped you are to anticipate those challenges, to identify those opportunities.
They say knowledge is power.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
don't underestimate the power of just being curious,
Okay.
engaging with the world around you.
Right.
Travel to new places if you can, even if it's just virtually. Try to learn a new language, even a few phrases. It can go a long way in building that rapport with your international colleagues.
I love these tips. So it sounds like thriving in this field, it really requires that global mindset, a genuine curiosity about different cultures, different ways of doing business.
You get the nail on the head. And that brings us back to something we talked about earlier. It's not just knowing the rules of the game.
It's the players in the playing field.
Exactly.
And that playing field can be pretty unpredictable, right?
Oh, tell me about it.
Natural disasters, political upheavals, the occasional shipping container getting stuck in a canal.
Oh, don't even get me started on those shipping container mishaps.
Right. So this is not a career for the faint of heart, is it?
It is not.
You need resilience, adaptability, a healthy dose of humor to deal with those inevitable curveballs.
100%.
So more than just checking boxes on a job description, it's about having the right temperament, the right mindset for this kind of role.
Exactly. And that's something you don't always get from those dry corporate job postings, do you?
You really don't. And I think that's why this deep dive has been so valuable. We've gone beyond the typical job duties and salary expectations.
Mhm.
We've gotten a real feel for what it takes to not just survive, but to thrive in this
Hmm.
dynamic,
Oh, yeah.
demanding field.
And you know what I find so inspiring about it?
What's that?
It attracts people who are passionate about making a real impact on the world.
That's a great point.
We're talking about facilitating global trade. We're talking about connecting economies, even fostering those cultural exchanges. It's pretty remarkable when you stop and think about it.
It really is. So for those listening, if you're drawn to a career that's challenging,
Oh, yeah.
rewarding,
Absolutely.
intellectually stimulating, globally impactful,
All of the above.
and you're not afraid of a little logistical puzzle
Well,
solving,
bring on the puzzles.
world of import-export might just be your calling.
It just might.
Just be prepared for a wild ride.
A wild and wonderful ride.
On that note, we'll leave you with this final thought. Imagine yourself standing at a bustling port, the air alive with the sounds of machinery, the scent of salt air.
I love that.
A massive cargo ship, one that you helped launch, is preparing to set sail. Where's it headed? What's its story? And what role will you play in the grand tapestry of global trade? Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.